I want to give you guys a couple huge tips that really help me. I could show it to you in a session too. Let's just pull this up. Kick. Now here is where we go. Now I want to show you guys this. Boosting at a lot, 13 dB at 40 something hertz. Now there's a critical element to this. I'm flattening afterwards. Now the rest of this isn't doing much, so we don't have to get into it. Like 4 dB boost at 8K, 4 dB boost at 17K, you know, 3 dB boost at 200-ish hertz. The point here is this: if you don't do this after you boost 13 dB at 46 hertz, look what happened. It would blow up everything and it would sound terrible. But by flattening 2 to 1, I'm messing with the threshold until I get roughly 10 to 14 dB of gain reduction. In other words, this thing is lighten up, so the bass is not escaping the way it would do it if you didn't have the dynamics in. Now compressor 100% on the compressor. Because in this case, if you didn't, you'd get too much of that, the bass boosting like crazy. So I have to flatten it, and that's why it's being flattened. Now, by doing this on a kick, it's really going to change the sound. Just like we talked about before about using compression to mess with feel, time feel. This is going to change the way the kick sounds in a positive way. That's why I used it. If it didn't, I wouldn't do it. And it's not something I always do. It's something that worked in this song based on this kick. And on this track, I did a similar thing, but significantly less. 4.5 dB boost at around 40 hertz, and then I'm flattening. And this too, just a little bit of boost is not much. 4 dB at 8, 4 dB at 1.7. Okay, now check this out. Flattening, and this in this case, fast release at 4 seconds. In the other case, I believe it was 2 seconds. Let's see, 0.2. Yeah, when I say 4 seconds, I mean 0.4 seconds. And this 0.2. So in other words, the 0.2 fast release on this and the 0.2 on the other one will make it where it's coming back in a way that was propelling the song, in my opinion. And this particular song is a little on the slower side, so sometimes it helps on a slower song to make it feel a little faster. You don't want the slow song to feel dragging. You don't want a song that's really fast to feel like it's hyper speed. So like you're maybe doing opposite what you would typically want to do sometimes, like what you would typically think it would need. You know, like a slow song, you don't want to make it slower, and a fast song, you don't want to make it faster. That's all I'm saying. So what else do you notice here? I got to point this out. Because I'm boosting 13 dB, look at this. I need you to think about this. This might be the biggest takeaway. So if you made it to this point in this video, you guys got this. So check this out. Negative, but what is this? Where are we at? It's like a 12 dB roughly, okay, 12.1. 12.1 is what I'm cutting out of the output signal. Why? Because I'm boosting 13 dB at 40 something hertz. So the idea here is, I want you to picture what this is. Let's say this instrument only occupied 40 hertz. Let's say. What that means is by boosting 13 dB, picture raising a fader 13 decibels on any instrument. Wow, is it going to be loud? So that doesn't really work. It's going to be blowing up your outputs unless you lower it almost in comparison. In other words, raising this volume is the same thing as raising a fader of that many dB. So you got to adjust it within here or it's never going to be good. And it's going to be just too loud, blowing everything up. You're going to be clipping everything before you could do anything. So I lower it, and then I'm doing a thing to the sound here to add some color and character and, you know, maybe a little time feel with the compressor. So this is another thing that's not always the same, but it's super helpful. And on this track, a very similar thing. Look, 4.5 dB boost. Look, I'm cutting at 8 dB off it. All right. And same similar thing where a 2 to 1 and, you know, relatively fast release and the threshold so that we got 10 to 14 dBs of gain reduction. Now this is not an always, this is a what works, but the point is if you boost low end, you gotta get it flattened. If you want to not boost low end, you don't have to flatten it. So it becomes a what works for me. Sometimes I don't boost low end at all. Sometimes I'll cut on every single low end instrument. Kick, bass, I'll cut it. Maybe it needs that. And I won't need to flatten in that case, because what are we flattening? Maybe we're flattening high end in that case. I don't know, but we wouldn't be flattening low end. You see what I'm saying? So let's keep this moving, but I want you to understand one other thing. When you look at this, what I see is I see this is how I work. So I know what I see, but what you guys should see is 46 hertz boost on a kick. The reason that's lower than you may think, like a kick does occupy, let's say 50, 60, maybe 70. Right. What I like to do is boost below it, because when I boost below things, they actually bring up the area I want in a more pleasing way. If I boost at the number, that's going to also bring up above the number. Just like by boosting below, it brings up above it. If you boost at 60, it's going to bring up above it. And guess what starts to happen? Your kick gets in the way of your bass. That's what happens. Because the bass needs to live above the kick, and generally in the low mids. But if you boost too much, you're going to be running into that bass. They don't have the ability to occupy the same space at the same time. So get under it, and then when you boost, it will bring it up naturally, and it won't be, the slope will bring it up naturally. There's a slope every time you use EQ. So that slope brings it up naturally in the right place, instead of bringing it up unnaturally in an area just above where you boosted, which will happen. Okay? And this sounds way better doing this than like boosting and then cutting, trying to puzzle piece things. I'm not a huge fan of the puzzle piece. Not a huge fan. One more thing before we go. If you don't start adding something to give you a little bit of harmonic enrichment, what is harmonics? JJP explained it best. He said it's the rainbow of the audio spectrum is what it is. So in other words, if you're wanting to get more out of an instrument, you want to pull harmonics out of it. And R-Bass is such a good way to do it. And the R series of plugins is phenomenal. So on R-Bass, if I boost it like, you know, at the frequency of 53, just a little bit of intensity, 1.5, and I had to lower the gain because it started to get a little crazy. This is going to really bring up what that bass sound, or in this case, the kick sound, is going to bring out more of that on, you know, in the harmonic region, more of the rainbow spectrum of this kick. And that's going to make it heard more on a laptop, heard more on a cell phone, heard more on a smart speaker that maybe doesn't have a ton of low end. You're going to need to do some of that sometimes, like if it's not there already, and that's why I added it here. So also check it out, Bus 2122, because I'm giving you guys all the tips. This 2122 is something I'll do because I'm never up against the wall. What do I mean? I mean, if you boost things like you want more of a, let's say you want more presence out of the kick, think about what you could do in parallel. Just like we would do with a lot of other instruments. What could you do in parallel? You could do something like create a kick sound that's more saturated, that's flatter, and that's exactly what we have going on. 2122. This is the track we were just looking at where that kick's being sent to. Nothing above 370 hertz is even in there. Okay, nothing. I'm cutting some of here, which is like 80, out of the way. You see this? This is 88 hertz, 86 hertz, and I'm getting rid of a lot of stuff that could be in the way of the bass, or maybe just in the way of the other kick sound. In other words, you can't occupy the same space. So in this case, by doing that and then saturating it with the Devil Lock, and again, this thing is really strong. This is like a really spicy sauce. That's actually from CLA. He called it sriracha sauce. So it's right here, 2, 2. It just gives you a little bit of flattening, and then I'm flattening it with a particularly aggressive kind of limiter, the L1. I'm just killing it, so it's flat. And then when I bring this up, I get auxiliary boost on the kick. I'm going to leave you with that because there's a ton here. If you like this video, do me a favor. Slap a comment down in the comment section on anything you do that's similar or anything you liked in the video. That would really help me a lot. Also, if you dug the video, please hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button because you don't want to miss tons more videos like this. My name's Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. You guys, you got this. Take it easy.